Galactic crisis. Human warship breaks through enemy lines. The holographic display aboard the HMS Defiant cast an eerie blue glow across Admiral Joanna Hayes's weathered face as she studied the unusual energy signatures appearing at the edge of Jupiter's orbit. 20 years of military service had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, every fiber of her being screamed that something was wrong. "Dr. Rodriguez, what are we looking at?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. The ship's chief scientist adjusted his spectacles, his dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of data streams. "The energy pattern suggests a massive displacement event. Admiral, whatever's coming through, it's bigger than anything we've ever encountered." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements precise and controlled. They'd drilled for first contact scenarios countless times, but this was different. This was real. Lieutenant Park at Tactical cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we're detecting multiple objects emerging from what appears to be a fold in spacetime. Configuration unknown, but the scale." He paused, double-checking his readings. "We're looking at vessels ranging from 1 to 5 kilometers in length." Hayes straightened her uniform, a habit born from years of facing impossible situations. "Send word to Fleet Command. First Contact Protocol Alpha is now in effect. And get me a direct line to the Secretary General." The vessels that emerged from the spatial anomaly were unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. Where human ships were angular and practical, these were organic in appearance, their hulls seeming to pulse with internal light. They moved with a grace that defied their massive size, arranging themselves in a formation that reminded Hayes of a blooming flower. "Incoming transmission," Communications Officer Wei announced. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, using..." Wait, they're already speaking English. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a being that looked almost like flowing mercury given consciousness. Its form shifted constantly, but maintained a vaguely humanoid shape with multiple luminous spots that might have been eyes. "Greetings, primitive vessels." The being's voice resonated through the bridge speakers. "I am Overseer Zix 383 of the Meridian Collective. Your solar system has been selected for integration into our enlightened society. Resist not, for we bring elevation beyond your comprehension." Hayes felt her jaw tighten. 2 decades of diplomatic training warred with military instinct as she formulated her response. "This is Admiral Joanna Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we do not accept unilateral declarations of authority over our system." The Meridian Overseer's form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Your response is noted but irrelevant. Our scans indicate your technology is centuries behind ours. We have guided countless species to enlightenment. Resistance would only delay the inevitable." "Overseer," Hayes responded, carefully measuring each word, "I strongly advise you to reconsider your approach. Humanity has no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The alien's response was immediate and dismissive. "Your primitive weapons pose no threat to our vessels. We have already begun the integration process. Your mining facilities on Mars will be repurposed first. Do not interfere." Hayes closed the channel and turned to her crew. "Sound General Quarters. All hands to battle stations." She activated her neural link to Fleet Command, her thoughts racing ahead of her words. "This is Admiral Hayes. We have a code black situation. Implement Operation Shadow Shield immediately." As klaxons blared throughout the ship, Hayes allowed herself a grim smile. The Meridian Collective was about to learn why humanity had spent the last century preparing for this exact scenario. They weren't the primitive species the aliens assumed them to be. They were survivors who had clawed their way to the stars, expecting the worst and preparing for it. The real question was, how long would it take these advanced beings to realize their mistake? Commander Marcus Rivera stared at the tactical display aboard the HMS Sentinel, watching as the Meridian scout vessels probed humanity's defensive line near Europa. His ship, hidden within the moon's crystalline ice sheets, remained undetected thanks to the quantum camouflage system that had taken Earth's best minds decades to perfect. "Status report," he whispered, knowing the ship's neural interface would carry his words to every crew member without breaking their electromagnetic silence. 3 Meridian cruisers approaching Sector 7, Lieutenant Fatima Hassan responded through the neural link. "Their scan patterns suggest they still haven't detected our presence. The ice is doing its job, sir." Rivera allowed himself a small smile. The Meridians, for all their advanced technology, hadn't considered that humanity might have developed ways to hide entire warships within natural formations. Their arrogance was becoming their greatest weakness. The bridge of the Sentinel was unlike anything the Meridians might have expected from a primitive species. Instead of physical controls and displays, the crew operated in a shared neural space, their minds linked directly to the ship's systems through quantum entanglement interfaces. Every officer was simultaneously aware of their individual duties and the ship's overall status, creating a level of coordination that bordered on precognition. New contact, Tactical Officer James O'Connor announced. Meridian command ship entering the area. Designation matches Admiral Nix 427's vessel. Rivera's expression hardened. Intelligence suggested Nix 427 was one of the collective's most experienced commanders. If they were here personally, something big was about to happen. All hands, prepare for possible engagement, Rivera ordered. Remember your training. We've drilled for this moment for years. The Meridian vessels moved with their characteristic grace, their organic-looking hulls pulsing with internal light as they conducted their survey of Europa. They were searching for signs of human activity, but their scans were calibrated to detect known human technology signatures. The Sentinel systems operated on principles the Meridians hadn't even theorized yet. "Sir," Hassan's voice carried an edge of urgency, "they're deploying some kind of probe into the ice. If it penetrates deep enough..." Rivera didn't hesitate. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Weapons free." The ice sheet above the Sentinel suddenly erupted as the ship's kinetic lance system activated. Massive accelerator rings fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, each shot precisely calculated to thread through Europa's ice without causing catastrophic damage to the moon's structure. The Meridian cruisers, caught completely off guard, had no time to raise their energy shields. The first volley struck with devastating precision, piercing their supposedly impenetrable hulls like paper. The quantum-tipped projectiles bypassed their advanced defensive systems entirely, proving that humanity's understanding of physics had progressed far beyond what the collective had assumed. Admiral Nix 427's command ship immediately responded, but their counterattack revealed their confusion. Their energy weapons, while immensely powerful, dispersed harmlessly through the quantum field surrounding the Sentinel. The human vessel's true defense wasn't its armor or shields, but its ability to exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime. "Multiple Meridian signatures detected," O'Connor reported. "They're calling for reinforcements." Rivera nodded. "Just as expected. Signal the fleet. Operation Checkmate is a go." Across Europa's orbit, dozens of human vessels emerged from similar hiding spots, each utilizing different advanced technologies that the Meridians had never encountered. Some ships phased through space using quantum tunneling, others rode artificial gravity waves, and still others seemed to bend light itself around their hulls. Aboard the Meridian command ship, Admiral Nix 427's metallic form rippled with what might have been the alien equivalent of shock. Their sensors were registering weapons and defensive systems that shouldn't have been possible for a species at humanity's presumed technological level. "Impossible." Nix 427 transmitted on all frequencies. "Your civilization is barely 2 centuries into space travel. These technologies..." "You made assumptions about us, Admiral," Rivera responded calmly. "You saw our civilian technology and thought you knew everything about our capabilities. But humanity learned long ago to keep its true strength hidden until necessary." The battle that followed would later be known as the turning point of Europa. The Meridian fleet, despite their superior numbers, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Human ships seemed to anticipate their tactical decisions before they made them, using battle strategies that had been refined through centuries of simulated combat scenarios. "Sir," Hassan reported, "the Meridian command ship is attempting to retreat. Their fleet formation is breaking down." Rivera watched as the once proud Meridian vessels scattered, their elegant formations dissolving into chaos. "Let them go," he ordered. "They need to report what they've seen here. The collective needs to understand that humanity isn't what they thought we were." As the Meridian ships fled, leaving their damaged vessels behind, Rivera opened a channel to Admiral Hayes. "Operation Checkmate successful, Admiral. The Meridians now know we're not as primitive as they assumed, but this is just the beginning." "Well done, Commander," Hayes responded. "But you're right. This is only the beginning. The real question is, What will the collective do now that they know the truth about humanity's capabilities? Rivera turned his attention back to the tactical display, watching as recovery teams moved to secure the damaged Meridian vessels. Each captured ship would provide valuable intelligence about their opponents, but more importantly, they would show the collective that humanity had been preparing for this moment for generations. The Battle of Europa had changed everything. The Meridians had arrived expecting to find primitives ready for uplifting. Instead, they had encountered a species that had spent its entire spacefaring history preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The next move would be theirs, but humanity was ready for whatever came next. Lieutenant Rashmi Patel crouched in the shadows of the Meridian command ship's bioorganic corridors, her adaptive camouflage suit perfectly mimicking the vessel's internal patterns. 6 hours had passed since she'd infiltrated the massive alien vessel during the chaos of the Europa battle, and now she was deep within enemy territory, gathering intelligence that could change the course of the war. Spectre 3 to Shadow Base, she subvocalized, her quantum transmitter sending the message through subspace channels undetectable to Meridian sensors. I've reached the central data core. Beginning extraction sequence. Acknowledged, Spectre 3. The encrypted response came from Captain Thomas Blackwood, her handler back on the stealth carrier HMS Nightshade. Remember, you have 20 minutes before their security grid resets. Rashmi's cybernetic implants interfaced with her suit's systems, projecting a heads-up display across her field of vision. The Meridian's supposedly unhackable biotechnology was about to meet human ingenuity head-on. She'd spent years studying their systems, preparing for this moment. Multiple contacts approaching. Her suit's eye warned. Meridian Security Patrol, approximately 30 seconds out. Rashmi pressed herself against the corridor wall, activating her suit's full-spectrum camouflage. The approaching Meridian guards, their mercury-like bodies flowing smoothly through the air, passed within inches of her position. Their sensor arrays, designed to detect conventional infiltration methods, were blind to the quantum state technology that rendered her virtually non-existent. Once they passed, she moved swiftly to the data core's access point. The massive chamber pulsed with bioluminescent light, its crystalline structures containing the collected knowledge of the Meridian Collective. As she began her hack, the true scope of their plans for Earth became clear. "Shadow Base, you need to see this," she transmitted, her voice tight with tension. The Europa attack wasn't just a probe. It's part of something much bigger. They're calling it Project Ascension. The data scrolling across her display painted a chilling picture. The Meridian Collective wasn't simply interested in adding another species to their empire. They saw humanity as a potential threat to their dominion over the galaxy. Their scans had detected traces of humanity's hidden technological advances, and it had terrified them. "They've been watching us for decades," Rashmi reported as she downloaded terabytes of classified information. "Every time we revealed new technology, they adjusted their timeline. They're not here to uplift us. They're here to prevent us from surpassing them." A sudden alarm blared through the ship's neural network. Rashmi's translator implant decoded the Meridian announcement. "Security breach detected in Sector 7. All units converge. Unknown entity detected in the data core." Spectre 3. "Abort mission immediately." Blackwood's voice crackled with urgency. "They're activating their quantum detection grid. Get out of there." But Rashmi wasn't finished. "Negative. Shadow Base. There's something else here. Contingency plans for full planetary occupation. I need 2 more minutes." The ship's corridors came alive with activity as Meridian security forces mobilized. Rashmi's fingers flew across the holographic interface, racing against time as she extracted the crucial data. Her suit's systems warned of increasing sensor activity as the Meridians deployed more advanced detection methods. "Interesting." A melodic voice suddenly echoed through the chamber. "We believe humans incapable of achieving quantum state technology for at least another century." Rashmi spun to face Overseer Zix 383, the same being who had first contacted Admiral Hayes. The Meridian leader's fluid form filled the doorway, multiple eyes studying her with what seemed like genuine curiosity. "Your species continues to surprise us," Zix 383 continued. "Perhaps this is why my colleagues fear you so much." Rashmi's hand moved to her quantum disruptor, but she knew using it would trigger a cascade of security protocols. "Fear us? You're the ones who came to our system with demands and threats. Because we recognize what you might become, the Overseer replied. Your species develops technology not through careful guidance like ours, but through chaos and competition. It makes you unpredictable. Security forces were closing in from all directions, but Rashmi stood her ground. We developed through innovation and necessity. Every advancement we've made came because we needed it to survive. And that is precisely what terrifies the collective. Zix 383's form rippled. A species that views survival as a driving force for advancement is dangerous. You build weapons before you build bridges. You hide your true capabilities instead of sharing them. How can we trust such a species? Rashmi's neural interface signaled that the data transfer was complete. Maybe that's the problem. Overseer, you're so focused on trust, you never considered understanding. Before Zix 383 could respond, Rashmi activated her quantum displacement device. The technology, reverse-engineered from studies of Meridian FTL drives, created a localized space-time distortion. In the confusion that followed, she slipped past the security forces and made her way to her extraction point. Hours later, aboard the HMS Nightshade, Rashmi delivered her report to Admiral Hayes via quantum hologram. The stolen data revealed not just the Meridian's immediate plans, but their deepest fears about humanity's potential. They're afraid of us, Rashmi concluded. Not because of what we are, but because of what we might become. The collective has never encountered a species that developed like we did, through adversity rather than guidance. Hayes studied the data with a grim expression. Then we need to show them that their fears are misplaced. If they won't accept peaceful coexistence, we'll have to prove we can be both advanced and ethical. As the briefing concluded, Rashmi couldn't help but wonder about Zix 383's words. The Meridians' fear of humanity's potential had driven them to aggression, but perhaps there was still hope for understanding between their species. The intelligence she'd gathered would help humanity defend itself, but it might also provide a path to peace, if they could convince the collective that innovation born of necessity wasn't something to be feared, but respected. Captain Victoria Stone stood at the helm of the HMS Hyperion, her hands hovering over the neural interface as she processed the battle data streaming through her consciousness. The massive holographic display showed hundreds of Meridian vessels converging on their position near Saturn's rings, their formation a thing of terrible beauty. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. "Meridian fleet approaching in standard attack pattern." Lieutenant Omar Nazari reported from Tactical. "They've adapted their shields to our kinetic weapons, Captain. The Europa tactics won't work twice." Victoria allowed herself a grim smile. "They're expecting us to fight the same way twice. That's not very human of them, is it?" The bridge crew shared knowing looks. They'd spent the last week preparing for this moment, implementing a battle strategy so unconventional that even their own admirals had questioned its sanity. But that was exactly why it would work. "Signal the mining fleet," Victoria ordered. Operation Avalanches go. Deep within Saturn's rings, dozens of automated mining vessels suddenly activated. These weren't the primitive resource extractors the Meridians had dismissed. They were highly advanced machines that had been quietly restructuring the ring system for the past month. "Meridian fleet entering optimal range," Omar announced. "They're charging weapons." Victoria's fingers danced across the neural interface. "Initiate gravitational collapse sequence. All ships, execute pattern Sierra 9. The mining vessels began their work in earnest, their quantum field generators manipulating the gravitational forces holding Saturn's rings in place. Chunks of ice and rock, some as large as mountains, began to move in ways that defied natural orbital mechanics. Aboard the Meridian command vessel, Admiral Nix 427 watched in confusion as their sensor readings went haywire. "Impossible. They transmitted on all frequencies. You cannot have mastered gravitational manipulation at this level. You still don't understand us, do you?" Victoria responded, her voice carried across the void. "Humans don't follow your orderly path of technological development. We jump ahead where we need to, fill in the gaps later." The trap was sprung. Massive sections of Saturn's rings began to accelerate, transformed into a deadly field of hypervelocity projectiles by the mining vessel's gravity manipulators. The Meridian fleet, their formations optimized for energy weapon combat, found themselves caught in a three-dimensional kill zone. Multiple impacts detected, Omar reported with professional detachment. Their shields are failing against the sustained kinetic bombardment. The Meridian ships try to adapt, their organic hulls morphing to present smaller profiles, but they couldn't escape the artificial asteroid field that Victoria's team had created. This wasn't just a battle, it was a complete reimagining of space warfare. Captain, Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka called out, "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Meridian fleet." They're arguing among themselves. Victoria leaned forward, intrigued. The quantum communications interceptors they'd developed based on Rashmi's stolen data were working perfectly. The Meridian command channel was filled with heated debate. "This is madness," one Meridian commander was saying. "They've weaponized an entire planetary ring system. How can a primitive species even conceive of such tactics? We should never have engaged them," another added. "Their technological development is chaotic, unpredictable. They're implementing concepts our scientists haven't even theorized yet." Admiral Nix 427's voice cut through the chaos. "Fall back. All vessels, emergency temporal shift. We cannot win this battle conventionally." But Victoria had anticipated this too. "Activate quantum anchor fields," she ordered. "Don't let them escape into subspace." The human fleet deployed their latest innovation, fields of artificial spacetime that prevented FTL travel. The Meridian ships, caught between the relentless kinetic bombardment and the inability to retreat, began to break formation. "They're surrendering," Omar announced, surprise evident in his voice. "Multiple vessels are powering down weapons and shields." Victoria opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Captain Stone to all Meridian vessels. We will accept your surrender and guarantee the safety of your crews. This battle is over." As the dust settled, literally and figuratively, Victoria received a priority transmission from Admiral Hayes. "Exceptional work, Captain. The Meridian Collective has requested an immediate ceasefire and diplomatic talks." "Do you think they'll actually negotiate this time?" Victoria asked. "They don't have a choice," Hayes replied. "You just proved that humanity isn't just technologically capable. We're innovative in ways they never expected. Their entire strategic doctrine has been upended." Victoria looked out at the scattered remains of Saturn's rings, now forever changed by the battle. Human engineers were already planning how to stabilize the system, to repair what they'd had to damage to achieve victory. That perhaps was the greatest difference between humans and the Meridians. Humans would adapt, rebuild, and learn from this experience. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them the tide has turned. But also tell them we're ready to talk peace when the Meridians are. We've proved our point. Now it's time to prove we can be better than our fears." As the adrenaline of battle faded, Victoria couldn't help but wonder what would come next. Humanity had demonstrated its capability for devastating warfare, but perhaps now they could demonstrate something equally important: the capacity for forgiveness and peaceful coexistence, even with those who had once threatened their existence. The United Earth Embassy on Luna Base presented a striking contrast of human and Meridian architecture. Traditional steel and glass merged seamlessly with bioorganic structures, creating a space that represented the potential for harmony between the two civilizations. Ambassador Helena Rodriguez walked through the gleaming halls, her steps measured and purposeful as she approached the Grand Conference Chamber. "Final briefing, Ambassador," her AI assistant whispered through her neural implant. "The Meridian delegation includes 3 overseers and their High Consul. This is the highest-ranking diplomatic mission they've ever sent to a young species." Helena nodded slightly, acknowledging the information. The past month, since the Battle of Saturn, had seen frantic diplomatic activity as both sides struggled to understand each other. Today's meeting would determine whether they could move forward as allies rather than adversaries. The conference chamber doors parted, revealing a spectacular view of Earth rising over the lunar horizon. The Meridian delegation was already present, their Mercury-like forms reflecting the blue light of humanity's homeworld. High Consul Zera Prime, their most senior leader, floated at the center of their group. Ambassador Rodriguez, the High Consul's voice resonated through the room, their form shifting to approximate a respectful bow. "We are grateful for this opportunity to correct our misunderstandings." "Welcome to Luna Base, High Consul," Helena responded, taking her seat at the crystalline table. We hope today's discussions will lead to a lasting peace between our peoples. The initial pleasantries gave way to serious negotiations. Holographic displays materialized above the table, showing the aftermath of their conflict and proposals for future cooperation. The Meridians, humbled by their military defeats, were finally ready to see humanity as equals. We have reviewed the data from our encounters. Overseer Zix 383 stated, their form rippling with what humans had learned to recognize as embarrassment. Your species' approach to technological development is unlike anything we've encountered in our 1,000 years of space exploration. Helena smiled diplomatically. We've had to be creative. Earth's history taught us to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Every advancement we made came from necessity, not just curiosity. That is what we failed to understand, Zyra Prime acknowledged. We saw your civilian technology and assumed we knew your capabilities. We never considered that you might be deliberately concealing your true strength. The discussion moved to practical matters. The Meridians proposed sharing their bioorganic technology in exchange for human innovations in quantum mechanics and gravitational manipulation. More importantly, they offered something unprecedented: full membership in the Galactic Council, not as a protected species, but as equals. There is much we can learn from each other, Helena suggested. Your civilization has achieved incredible harmony and cooperation. We can help you understand how to adapt to unexpected challenges. Together, we might create something greater than either of us could achieve alone. As if to emphasize her point, a team of human and Meridian scientists entered the chamber, presenting their first joint project. They had developed a hybrid technology that combined Meridian bioorganic computing with human quantum systems, creating something entirely new. This is remarkable, Overseer Zix 383 exclaimed, examining the prototype. We would never have conceived of merging these technologies. The potential applications are limitless, Helena finished. This is what happens when we work together instead of assuming superiority. Different approaches to problem solving can lead to revolutionary breakthroughs. The negotiations continued through Earth's lunar day, addressing everything from territorial boundaries to technological exchange protocols. But the most significant discussions centered on cultural exchange and understanding. The Meridians were particularly fascinated by human art, music, and literature, concepts their efficiency-focused society had never fully explored. Your species' creativity extends beyond technology, Zyra Prime observed. Perhaps this is why you develop in such unexpected ways. You imagine possibilities we would never consider. As the meeting drew to a close, Helena stood to make a final proposal. The recent conflict proved that humanity can defend itself if necessary. But we'd rather create than destroy. We propose establishing a joint research and cultural center here on Luna, where our peoples can work together to solve the galaxy's greatest challenges. The Meridians conferred briefly, their forms merging and separating in their species' version of a discussion. Finally, Zyra Prime moved forward. We accept, the High Consul announced. More than that, we wish to propose something unprecedented. The Galactic Council has always operated on principles of guidance and protection. Perhaps it is time for a new approach, one of mutual learning and respect. The agreement that emerged from that historic meeting would change the course of both civilizations. The Luna Accords, as they came to be known, established a new framework for interstellar relations. Humanity would share its innovative spirit and adaptability, while the Meridians would contribute their ancient wisdom and advanced biotechnology. As Helena watched the Meridian delegation depart, their ships no longer threatening but elegant against the star-filled sky, she reflected on how far both species had come. The conflict had begun because of assumptions and fear, but it had ended in understanding and hope. Send word to Admiral Hayes, she instructed her AI. Tell her Operation Looking Glass was a success. The future we hoped for is finally within reach. The stars seemed brighter that night, as if celebrating the new partnership between two very different species who had learned to see past their differences and recognize the strength in diversity. Humanity had proved it could defend itself, but more importantly, it had proved it could forge peace from the ashes of conflict. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what both species needed.